Hey guys, so now we live in a world of top-end devices costing £1,200, £1,400, £1,500 or dollars, wherever you are. I always think that the Pixel devices are still well priced. So my Pixel 6, for example, you could say is a top-end phone. I mean, okay, the Pro is the proper top-end, but even the Pro I think was only £850 and my 6 was 600. So the Pixels, I mean, you wouldn't call them mid-range, but they're well priced. So for them to have a sort of budget version, a mid-range version, it could almost ring some alarm bells in that, well, hang on, this is already a reasonably well-priced device. What sacrifices are you going to make it even cheaper? Well, I've been using the Pixel 6a for, a week now, so I thought it's time to let you know what I think about it. And what do you lose for that £200 less, or for, what can you get for £399? So we'll start with the design, which is Pixel-like, you could say. So they've sort of made themselves noticeable now with the bar, but this is noticeably less. I have got my 6 here. You can see how it is a much smaller, thinner, shallower, is that a word? Camera bar on the back. It's a 6.1 inch screen, it's 8.9 millimeters thick, and it's 178 grams. Which, honestly, when I first saw the figures on its size, because people commented, I'm really looking forward to a small phone. I mean, when you say small phone, I think about my Pixel 5, which, I mean, I guess it's not hugely that much bigger, but I looked at the numbers and I kind of thought that doesn't look that much of a small phone, but it does feel fairly small and light. If I go back to my Pixel 6, the 6 feels like quite a big device then. So it comes in charcoal, chalk and sage, that's the colours. Power and volume on the one side, USB Type-C at the bottom, speakers, noise cancelling mic at the top. I think that's kind of all the key bits that we need to cover. In-screen fingerprint sensor, which on the whole, I mean, I think it's a little bit better than my 6, to be honest. My 6 fails me quite often. 6A seems to have done a better job. The hardware itself, fun enough, is basically, if you see my head-to-head against the Pixel 6, that was kind of when the penny dropped that actually it's identical. I thought it was the same chips and something, but I mean, basically, it's the Google Tensor, the 5nm chipset, octa-core processor, Mali G78 MP20, and 6 gig of RAM with 128 gig of storage, all with the UFS 3.1 file system, which, apart from the 6 gig RAM, is almost identical. Well, it is identical. All those numbers are identical to the Pixel 6. It scored 2,800 odd, 2,846 on Geekbench 5. And weirdly, when I did the unboxing, I only scored 2,400. Now, I don't know if the update that I did in the meantime, all of a sudden, and I ran it a couple of times recently, and it scored 2.8 each time. I think even 2,903 one time. So it does look like that's the sort of correct number, so to speak. But it was a bit weird when the unboxing was only a 2.4. I don't know why. Like I said, maybe the update did something. But yeah, 2.8. That's pretty good actually. I mean, again, it's got the hardware of a reasonably top-end device inside it. I think it's also IP68. I forgot to check on my notes because it just says P67, but I think it's IP67 rated. The speakers, let's give you a quick blast. I'm going to do it with a podcast though.
And then, I mean, it goes a bit like the list. Susan Sarandon.
Oh, come on, that's okay.
Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy. Ravi Shankar. Several heads of state.
Richard Gere.
Sting.
If you want to hear music, go to my head-to-head video. I did a bit of music compared to the Pixel 6. And weirdly, the 6A in my test averaged 86 decibels. The Pixel 6 averaged like 89. And 86 isn't great, that's lower half. But in the head-to-head, I would swear the Pixel 6a sounded louder than the Pixel 6. In fact, I awarded the speaker to the 6a. And for me, listening to podcasts, if I'm making phone calls using the speaker, plenty loud enough, it sounded pretty good. Again, I wouldn't be listening to music and having a party based off of it. Definitely Bluetooth wise to my headphones, sounded fine, no issues there. So the screen, as I've mentioned, 6.1 inches, OLED. It's got an 83% screen to body ratio, which isn't huge. It means the bezels are a little bit bigger than might be on some devices. It's 1080 by 2400 pixels, which is 20 by 9 ratio, and a 429 pixels per inch density, which is pretty good actually. That's better than some, because others will have that same resolution but on a bigger screen. So because it's a smaller screen, actually the density is higher. It's only Corning Gorilla Glass 3 protecting it, but then I don't know, I think that's fine. I remember hearing something about as they get harder to scratch, they become easier to shatter or something like that, because I mean that's just how life works. As you make something harder, then when it breaks, it's going to just. It's only 60 hertz. We see a little bit of lag there. It should be swept into. And I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess it's a little blurry as you scroll like that, but not to the point that. I mean, I wouldn't be trying to read stuff if it's scrolling like that anyway. I would do it much slower, like so. And I think my eyes just aren't good. I mean, you do hear it. There's almost two different people in the world. Those that can see the difference between 60 and 120 and those that can't. I'm not sure that I can. So to me, the screen is fine. Actually, the colours are nice and vibrant and bright. It scored, what did it score? 690 lumens in my test, which is reasonable. It's kind of middle of the pack, and it's generally enough. A budget device would often be down somewhere in the 500s. The Pixel 6 only scores about 730, I think, so it's not that different to the Pixel 6. I've used it outside. It's been quite sunny recently. I've never really had a problem, apart from the time I forgot to turn adaptive brightness back on. I have to do my battery test where I turned brightness off and set it to 300 lumens. And I forgot to turn it back on, so I'm walking around in the high street thinking, why can't I read my screen? And then I remember, oh no, I didn't turn on. So yeah, unless, like, I've got one app, I think it's MyFitnessPal. When it's in dark mode and I go over to here, there's some relatively darkish text at times that I found a little hard to see when it was in bright sunlight, but on the whole, it did just fine. The cameras, so there's a 12.2 f1.7 main wide angle with face detection, autofocus, optical image stabilization, and there's a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle, which is only f2.2. The front facing is 8 megapixel f2.0. Now I'm kind of spinning over these quite quickly because I did a whole other video, which I'll try to throw up in the corner, on the camera. It's only 4 or 5 minutes, so I'd say go and see that. But the short version of things is generally pretty good. So that the sensor is old, and I say old because it was in the Pixel 5, but it was even when it was in the Pixel 5, people were saying, well, this is an old sensor, and a year later it's been put into the 6a. But I think it started out in the Pixel 2 and it's been in each Pixel since. But generally it's a good enough sensor. And when Google does its computational wizardry on the photos, they look really good. The only problems I have, well, I won't even call them problems, but the only time I think is a bit noticeable is in the low light. And I did take some pictures in a museum where it really was quite dark and it did struggle a bit. The night mode is really good, but when you've got people wandering around in it, it will sometimes turn them into a bit of a blurry mush. So the camera, let me be clear, because someone was a bit like, oh, Pixel's not got a good camera. No, it has a really good camera. Just be aware that sort of night videos in really low light are going to struggle. And if there's a lot of movement, which to be fair, most will, and a photo with a lot of movement going in the dark, you might get a bit blurry. But watch that other separate video on the camera. So software, I don't think there's a huge amount to say on software. It's a Pixel phone, it's got stock Android, it's nice and slick. There's plenty enough power that generally makes it nice and slick. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, the only thing I was a little disappointed by was the wallpapers. In fact, sorry, I went too far. So these are the sort of fancy new wallpapers for the 6A. And honestly, I think generally they're just quite dull. They're just like smeary messes, out of focus. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit disappointing. I thought they might have some nice, funky wallpapers for us, but no. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's too much else to say about Android 12 or the Pixel 6a's software because it's a Pixel phone. I think you're probably buying it because it's stock Android and you know what you're getting. Move on to the battery. So it's a LiPo 4410 milliamp hour non-removable battery. It fast charges at 18 watts. It uses USB power delivery 3.0. I did find actually that I do miss wireless charging. So I've got the Pixel stand, I forget what it's called, the wireless stand, that my 6 sits on through the day. So I don't actually charge overnight because it generally charges while I'm working at home on the stand. And I realised, oh, I've got to, like this morning I woke up and the Pixel 6a was at 4%. Oh, and I was about to head outside. Well, not about to, in like an hour and a half. I was about to go outside. Oh, I better plug that in then. So I do find I kind of forgot to plug it into charge, just because I got so used to not having to think about the battery really on the 6 because it's on the charger for so much time when I'm on my computer. So how did the battery perform though? So it scored 94% on my test, which is okay. It's not great. It's all right. It's not an issue. I think if it's less than 90, it's an issue. It's an hour-long test, playing a video, reloading Twitter basically. Goes on for an hour. So 94%, that's pretty good for an hour's use of screen on. But at the same time, there's others, like the Pixel 6 scored 96.5% because it literally just ticked to 96 on the end of the hour. So that wasn't great, but AccuBattery shows kind of a bit of a different story, really. So it's saying screen on time in almost 10 hours, and combined use would be 29 hours. That is pretty good. I mean, that's better than the 94 score would suggest. I mean, it's not an issue, don't get me wrong. Like I say, only when I forget to plug it in. And in fact, I was out all day at museums and things with the family. And at one point I thought, oh my God, it's ripping to the battery. But actually, when I looked at the battery stats, I thought, well, that's not bad actually for heavy usage because I'm taking a lot of photos, a lot of video, and it's syncing them up to Dropbox and to Google Photos. That's quite an intense day for the device. And actually, it coped all right. I wasn't ever thinking, oh my God, I need to plug it in, it's going to die. No, it coped okay. So yeah, the battery is not an issue, I would suggest. So there we go. What do I think? As I kind of mentioned, the numbers, when you look at them, 6.1 inch screen, 178 grams, 8.9 millimeters thick, they don't really doesn't sound like a small device, but it makes you realize when you go back to a bigger device that actually it is quite noticeable in the hand, the difference between the two. And that was nice. I do like a smaller device, if I'm honest. So everything sort of like the specs and numbers hold up well for the price. It's got a great screen, it's got a decent speaker, it's got good battery, and on the whole, it's got a really, really good camera. My only concern would be that sort of, I mean, I wouldn't even call it low light. I think it's the actual dark, taking photos in the dark. And then, again, to be fair, you've got to be a really good camera to be able to take good photos in the dark. That would really be my only sort of concern. But actually, I've been using this device for a week and I've not been in a hurry. I always think this is the big sort of tell. Am I in a hurry to get back to my device? So in this case, the Pixel 6. No, I'm not really missing out on anything. The performance is good, the camera's good, screen's good, speaker's good, feels nice in the hand. I was just happily playing along with a 6.8. It's fine. And when that's a £399 device, I think that's really good. I mean, I've been saying for a long time, that is the price point, around sort of 300 to 500 where you should be spending your money. Honestly, I'm not even too sure, even if it matters, you could be a millionaire. I mean, I guess, buy a really expensive phone, almost why not, but I just think that 300 to 500, well, I spent 600 on mine. Mind you, I got headphones and sold them and it cost me in the end sort of 440. I just think that is the area you should spend your money. The gains you get for spending above that, it's like I don't know what you call that curve. You know, there's diminishing returns. I think that's the right way. As you spend £200 more, you only get a little bit more. But you know, when you get into that £300 to £500 range, you've hit that sweet spot of you've spent enough to get a good device, and spending more than that is minimal returns. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the device. Please do let me know yours in the comments down below. I do read all of the comments and reply where suitable. Hopefully I've covered everything. I've not forgotten anything, but I'll if I've missed something, ask in the questions, and I'll let you know. But for now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.